Hi Rick, how you doing, man?
Good morning, Keith. How's by you?
Good, good. Welcome back from Santa Barbara.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be back. It's just beautiful weather now. I think it's fall officially. It feels like it anyway.
Really, I thought the rule of thumb here, at least in the Valley, was don't get comfortable until after Halloween. It's a little bit different in Sedona.
Yeah, I think we're a little bit cooler than you guys during the year, but especially when the temperatures start falling off at night, then it's hard for it to creep back over, say, 90. So today's going to be 75, and then last night was 55. So it's just gorgeous.
Oh, it is gorgeous. Hey, so today's podcast was inspired by one of my colleagues at Mayo. Just fantastic person. Her name is Zahra. And she, like I said, just really, really special. And she most recently went on vacation, and she's been doing the practice for a couple months now. And she shared a recent discovery during one of our biweekly meetings. And what she discovered was, and this is the title of the show, when things go up and down, I don't have to go up and down with them. And I just really like that. So why don't you kick that off with what that means to you, Rick?
Well, I think part of the thing that we are always tempted to do is to get caught up in the externals. And so the externals could be anything from traffic to an unexpected assignment to anything that is a little bit off the radar. And the trick is to be even keel and to have that inner gyroscope where you're just going through your normal day and you're just observing yourself going through the normal day. One of the things that helped me a lot was to just focus on trying to be the actor behind the thought. In other words, instead of being caught up in the thoughts about or the judgments about what this new thing is that I have to cope with, I'm looking at myself, just watching myself deal with this issue. And that perspective, that 10,000, 15,000 foot view seems to help out a little bit when you're trying to figure stuff out. So one of the things that helps me, as I say, is the idea of getting behind the thought, watching yourself process this new kind of up or down. And then eventually, I think as you get more comfortable with doing that, I think eventually what happens is you start to realize I don't have to get caught up in a merry-go-round. I can just be myself, watch this stuff come in, watch this stuff roll out, and then do what I can to solve it, do what I can to make everything work out the way that I'd like it to, and then let it go, detach. How about for you?
Yeah, I think it's the same as you mentioned, man. Being that observer, or as you put it, the actor, who just kind of watches, the event, come into play. And the event itself, most oftentimes, is neutral. It's the meaning that we attach to it, and once you attach a meaning to it, it's so easy to become identified with it, and then it's off to the races. You're no longer in control. And so I try to be that observer that watches the event, but it takes some trained awareness. Like you have to really see it, happen, and you'll notice yourself get taken for a ride, and then you just come back to it. You don't beat yourself up after you get off the after you get off the ride. Then you've been going down. You just kind of exit the ride. Then another one will come back around. You'll get back on that roller coaster. And this time, but pretty soon you'll notice that it's a roller coaster. Before that event happens, whatever it is, something at work doesn't go to your liking. Somebody does something that doesn't meet your expectation. Something on a headline in the news sparks or triggers you in some way. And that's the roller coaster, right? It's like the park attendant saying tickets, please. And, you're stepping into the car, the roller coaster car, and it's going up, 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 up. And you can choose to be aware that it's a roller coaster, like it's not real. And you can deal with the event, I think, more effectively when you're being the observer and you know it, And so I really try to practice my being aware. I've really, really worked on that over the years. And with practice, it's gotten better and better. Like I'm more apt to notice it than not notice it. And that's made a huge difference in my life. So my suffering, for the most part, is pretty minimal because I'm not going up and down with life. I'm trying to stay even keel. Even when great things happen, I still kind of like stay pretty even keel. People like, aren't you excited about the upcoming vacation? I'm like, yeah, that's like 2 weeks away. I'm I'm excited in this moment. Right now, everything is about just being practical. Have I booked my airline tickets? Is my hotel reservation taken care of? Then I don't think about it anymore other than that. And so, but in the past, I would think about what the weather conditions would be for a ski trip 3 months down the road. Who knows what the weather would be like the day before, let alone 3 months. And I'd be up and down like, oh my God, no, it's going to be a bad snow season. And then I'm all, depressed about the upcoming vacation. So I don't do that anymore. I just try to stay in the present moment. And with that, I'm able to stay pretty even tempered.
Mm-hmm. What do you do about, let's say a friend or a colleague says to you, well, you don't understand. I mean, I can't help it. I just get caught up in stuff. I can't help it. What do you do with that?
I say, you're right. If you think you can't help it, you're right. You can't help it, but if you think you can, you can. So, when people would tell me that, like, hey, Keith, just let it go. I'm like, you don't understand. They're like, I guess you can't let it go. So they were right. I was so identified with it. So I learned a long time ago, man, when people are identified with that, they can't hear you. They're unconscious. It's when they get to the point, it's like, I'm tired of suffering. Like, can you share with me some tips about how you are free of being on this roller coaster, as Zahra said, at the ups and downs of life? I want to be free of that. Is that possible? If so, how? That's a different conversation. But when they start off with, I just can't, I'm like, you're right. You can't, and that's their path.
I think the hardest thing for people to realize is that most of what life offers is a choice. It's always a choice. And people say, well, it can't be that simple. You don't understand. This is really a difficult issue for me. Yeah, they're all difficult. I mean, seriously, a parent dies, a child dies, God forbid. We get sick, you get the diagnosis. Whatever it is, those things are huge. And every time that something like that comes up, there's a choice that you have that's involved with deciding how you're going to react to it. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible for you to act even keel and to be perfectly normal and to not have any relationship with whatever that issue is. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that at the beginning of any kind of crisis, we need to make sure that we understand I've got a choice here, and continue to check in with yourself about those choices that you have. If you just simply react, you're never going to get out of that up and down roller coaster. The reaction is the roller coaster. It's when you step out of the roller coaster is still going, but you're not in it anymore. You're watching it. Big difference.
Rick, that was profound. Oh man, that was the best explanation I've ever heard. That was beautiful. Okay. And it was so spot on. Wow. I mean, preach, brother. That was right on.
Well, I think folks, we really do tend to get worked up so much that we think it's the circumstance. And it is the circumstance. That is a stimulus. There's no doubt about it. But the reaction to the stimulus, or how long the stimulus continues to affect you, that's within your control.
I totally agree. And I think what you said is just being aware that you have a choice in every moment. I mean, like, I think so much of life is that you think that you are at the effect of life. And in every moment, even with the most undesirable circumstance, you have a choice. And I think we've seen a ton of history lay that out. I mean, you and I've mentioned in several podcasts about Viktor Frankl. I mean, could there be, describe a tragedy as significant as the one that he experienced, being in a concentration camp and still being able to find the meaning of life there? And he was always aware during that experience about the choice that he had. And so I think that is really important. And I encourage people that one thing that might be helpful is to consider that instead of arguing for, the right to feel a certain way, which you certainly has, argue about how do I become peaceful? Instead of saying you don't understand the situation, how about another, consideration would be, how do I free myself from this situation, or the effect of this situation, or this narrative about the situation? That conversation opens up possibilities. And the other conversation, when you start off with, you don't understand, maybe they don't, But is that really the question? The question is, how do I become free of the effect of the situation if it is causing me any kind of suffering and missing out on being present? The first one, in terms of the first statement, you don't understand, that limits your possibility. The other one, the latter, it opens up possibilities. And so I think if you try that second approach, you are more apt to not be at the whims of the ups and downs of life, but you're able to really become a master of the ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I think mastery is something that is almost inadvertent. I think that anytime we're striving for something like mastery of a circumstance, we get caught up in trying to be perfect. And that's another pitfall. It's another Achilles heel we have in the way that we approach life. The perfection often is the oppressor. The perfection, the quest for perfection gets in the way of doing a good job, or gets in the way of feeling peaceful. And so we don't have to have a perfect reaction to whatever happens. We can have whatever reaction we want, but the clue is to know that the reaction is a choice, and that once that reaction you've been able to control, or you've been able to look at and see that it doesn't serve you, then you can start down a path that does serve you. And remember always, it's the choice that's the key. It's not the reaction. It's the choice of how you want to behave from that point forward. It's the conscious expenditure of energy along a way that is peaceful and helpful for yourself and for all concerned.
I totally agree, Rick. And, and for me, it's with every situation that comes up that presents an opportunity to go up or down, it's an opportunity to practice, like of being conscious, of being aware that I have a choice. And you string enough of those along, you're not striving to be perfect, as you mentioned, but with enough of that, you just start to, as you mentioned, the mastery just happens. It unfolds.
Yeah.
It's a great place to be, man, to be peaceful. I mean, if you would ask me years ago what I wanted in life, I would have described success a completely different way. Now, the way I describe it, man, is like, man, I want to be peaceful. I want to be peaceful. And when I'm peaceful, I'm more effective, man, in terms of serving, being kind, being compassionate, being loving. Gratitude is always like the first and last thing off my lips. It's just easy. Life is easier.
That's the key. It's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier if you let that stuff go.
Exactly. Rick, thanks for a great show, my friend.
Hey, I always love seeing you, Keith. Thanks for including me.
Always. I love you.
I love you. Adios.
Adios.